Hello everybody and welcome back to another Minecraft video. Today I have for you a session expiry system, and you may be wondering what on earth is that. Well, the best way for me to explain it to you is by explaining how I came up with the idea for this. So I was trying to run Gold Rush on a public server, and one of the problems that I encountered was that players would be in the middle of a game and they could just simply log out, and then they'd be out of the game, and when they next logged back in they would still be in the status of the game. They would have the armor, the weapons, they'd be on a team, and they'd be in the middle of an arena. And so that meant that after a game had finished and another one had started, someone could log back in and be in the middle of someone else's game, and that would disrupt it and make it unfair. And so I thought I need a way to fix this, to stop this from happening. And at first I thought about using bukkit plugins, and there are some plugins out there that will do this for you, but then I started to think there has got to be a way to do this with command blocks in vanilla Minecraft. And so I came up with this system over here. I called it the game session expiry system, and what it does at the beginning of your game, you would send a redstone signal into this system right here, and it would apply a session to all of the players in the game. So they'd all be tagged with game 1, and then when the game finished you'd do the same thing again. You'd send a redstone signal over to this machine, and then what it would do is it would set their status back to 0, and it would teleport them back to the lobby or wherever it is you have your area for the players. And so anyone who logged out in the middle of that game would still have the game 1 status that we set at the beginning of it. And so then this redstone right here simply sets off a clock which will then continuously detect for anyone who has the session game 1. And so then the games can continue like this. You have game 2 here and game 3 going onwards, and then anyone who logs back in who logged out during the middle of a game will still have that session applied to them, and the clock here will simply pick them up and teleport them out of the game into a holding cell, which you can then use to reset them and put them in the lobby or something like this. So this system is also really compact. You can see it's free wide and it's tileable as well, meaning if you wanted to run this on a vanilla server and you needed to play lots and lots of games and let this thing run for a long time, then you can simply copy and paste it over and over again, and yeah, you can have loads of these stored up in your spawn chunks. They'll always be running, and then they'll be able to detect anyone who's logged out during the middle of a game and teleport them back to your lobby. Okay, so we're joined by Raven's Child.
Hi.
He's going to be our test subject and we're going to show you how this works. So I'm going to start the first game, and if you have a look at the text on my screen, you will see that his game value has been set to 1, so now he's part of the game. And then when we end the game, you'll see that he'll get cleared from that, and also he'll get teleported back to the very middle there. So you would make that your lobby, so you could teleport your players back to the lobby. Now we're going to start a second game, and you'll see that he has been applied with the game value 2, and this time Ravens is going to log out, and then when the game ends he will no longer be in the game at the same time, so he's going to save that state, which is number 2. And now if you log back in now, Ravens, you'll see that the clock is going to pick him up and teleport him into this little cage over here. But you'll notice that he's being continuously teleported up and down here. It looks quite funny, and that's because the clock is continuously active. So you'd also need another one over here next to your cage where you teleport the players to, and this is simply going to reset them back to game 0 and then teleport the player in that region, which is the cage, back into your lobby area like this. So you've seen how it works, and now what I'm going to do is explain it to you so that you could import it into your own map and make it work for your game, and after that I'll go over the redstone in a little more detail as well. So if you're importing this into your map, you're going to need this free wide segment here, and you want to locate this in the spawn chunks where they'll always be loaded. And then for each one of these that you add next to it, because it's tileable, it means that you get an extra game session. So if you wanted a limited amount of game sessions, you could do that just by having like 3 or 4 of these. If you needed lots and lots, then you'd simply just have to keep on tiling these next to each other over and over again. So once you've put them into the map, you need to set up the command blocks, but you also need to configure the inputs, and one of them is when the game starts. So if you don't have a redstone signal for when the game starts, you need to make one, i.e. both players could press a button and set off an AND gate, and then you need to take a signal from that and send it over to this machine. And so the first command block that it activates is this one right here. There are 2 things that you need to do here. Make sure you have this value here the same throughout. I've called it game, so if you already have one that you're using called game, then you need to change that to something different and make the first session's value 1, not 0. And so over here as well, you can see I've targeted all players in mode 2. You need to set this up properly for your map. For example, you may need to target all players in team 1 and team 2, but then you might have another team called observers, so you wouldn't want to target people in that team. And then for every other one after it, you simply change the 1 on the end to 2, and then 3, and then 4, going on, etc, etc. And then these ones over here, you need to modify the numbers in here. You can see we've got score_game equals 1, so you'd change that to 2 if you were on the second command block over there. And also the parameters for selecting the right players you need to configure as well, and then you need to teleport them to the correct location, which you can see at the end here. That's going to be the little holding area that you have to then change their score to 0 and teleport them out. So over here you would then set that player who's in the cage to game 0, and then you would teleport any player out with game 0 out of the cage back to the lobby. So you'd need that set up on a clock as well, so any player that gets teleported out of the game then gets set to 0 and teleported back into the lobby. So once you've done that, you need to do the same thing that we did with the beginning of the game for the end. You need some sort of wind detector that then can create a redstone signal to send over here, and that signal needs to be turned into what I do believe is an 8-tick pulse. Now if you do this with a different length of pulse, you're going to have problems with this because the output is going to travel on to the next one, and that's going to break the system basically. So you need to have one of these before it. You can see it's just a monostable circuit, really easy to copy. And so this first command block right here, you don't need to configure anything but this part here, so you just need to make sure you target the right players again. And then the same thing right here, just make sure you target the right players and put in the location for the lobby or wherever it is you want to send your players after the game is finished. And so then that is all of the command blocks configured. You need a clock to go on the top bit. You can use a faster one if you really want to, but as long as you have a pulse going into this signal here, then that is all of your system configured. So the redstone, it's going to be a little bit difficult to explain because it's quite complex and compact, but it's not actually that complicated. So anyway, when the signal passes into the first block here, it's going to unpower this torch, and this command block is going to become unpowered, which means it's going to do nothing. But then when the torch powers back up again, it's going to power this command block, and that's when it then sends its signal. And that's very important because we're going to lock this block from being used later on by powering this block from here. So it means this will no longer be able to become unpowered. And we've done exactly the same thing on the other side over here. You can see when the signal comes through, we're going to turn off this torch, so these are going to unpower, and when they power back up again, that's when they activate. But we also have this redstone on the side here, and we have this torch, meaning that when that turns on, it's going to power this block, power this redstone here, and then these two are never going to be able to be used again. So when the signal comes through, it's also going to branch off to the side here and set off, which is a RS NOR latch. So we have a torch down there somewhere. This is quite difficult to get in and look at. This torch is going to turn off, so it's going to unlock this bit, which means the next time a signal comes through, it travels into the next one, and it's going to do the same thing over here as well. But it's also, when this becomes unpowered, it's going to power this torch over here, which I can't seem to look at, and then that's going to lock the RS NOR latch. So yeah, so that will never change again. And that means that then this command block here is permanently powered. So is this one on this side over here, so they can never be used. And also, if you have a look here, we have a torch travelling up to the top, so that is keeping this piece of redstone wire always powered, and again this thing unpowered. And so when the RS NOR latch is set off, this can then receive the signal from this side and activate the clock. So that is my session expiry system. I really just want to throw the idea out there. I think this could possibly be improved in a couple of ways, and maybe if people start using it and testing it, then they'll be able to find some other flaws with it. But at the moment it does seem like it does exactly what it's supposed to. So if you have any thoughts and opinions on this, be sure to leave a comment and let me know if you have any ideas for improving or changing this as well. And so there is a link to download this in the description box, along with some schematics for the tileable session expiry systems, and there's some links on the screen to click and in the description box and all of that. So if you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a like and help support the channel. And so thank you for watching. I will catch you next time.